Welcome to today's Stratum Insight webinar. We're actually going to talk as part of our Stratum connectors. We're going to talk about the ability to use Power BI, Microsoft's powerful visualization tool, to use that with against Stratum and the data within Stratum. How to use Power BI with Stratum, and we'll be talking about that today and looking at a demo. So welcome. We'll just go through a few slides just to kind of go over some things, and then we'll get on with the demo. Just wanted to talk a little bit about Stratum's Data Hub. Then obviously, what is Power BI? We'll take a deeper look at that. How do we connect to Stratum with Power BI, the desktop tool? How do we leverage those views that you have within Stratum? And then obviously we'll go into a demo, and any questions that you might have. You can certainly use the chat feature or feel free to chime in. But here's the Stratum Data Hub. As you can see, there's on the left side, there's what different ways to get data into Stratum, whether you're using Stratum Link, our ETL tool, or using Stratum Analyst Hub, or any other methods for that matter. Getting data into Stratum is easy. So, and we've got other sessions that kind of deal with the data import features, using Excel data, getting budgets and plans and so forth into Stratum using our new data import features. Today, we'll be concentrating on the right-hand side of the Stratum Data Hub, which concentrates on getting data out of Stratum. So as you can see, different ways, obviously using our interface, our web-based interface, and many other different ways to get the data or visualize the data. Today, we'll be honing in on the Power BI connector, which is part of the Access Hub. So as you can see, when you get licensed for the Access Hub, you get access to not only the Power BI connector, but also we have a powerful Excel add-in and email distribution capabilities. So certainly something worth looking at there. Power BI is a Microsoft tool. It is a data reporting visualization tool. Pretty cost effective. You could just download a free version of the desktop version if you wanted to play around with it. But it does provide nicely done, fully customizable graphic options, simple collaboration. You can upload these reports up to the cloud, and they're accessible via URLs. Matter of fact, I will show you how to do that today. So, that's kind of what Power BI does, and we'll take a look at how you're able to use these visualizations. And we also provide a capability to drill through the report into back to Stratum to get more detail. So we'll look at that as well. So that sits, obviously, Power BI desktop is something you can load locally on your laptop, and you can run it there. There's a Power BI connector that will need to be downloaded and installed, and that's provided by Solon. And then certainly Stratum Viewer, our interface is necessary. So you need to be licensed for that, as many of you are. And then you can leverage the views or create new ones. If you find that a view doesn't fit your needs, then certainly create a view that, provides the data that you need within that Power BI report. When you use the desktop version of Power BI, and I'll show you this, you'll connect to the Stratum interface. You'll provide the URL to the interface. And then also you'll select what views, when you make that connection and you authenticate appropriately, you'll then search for or just make a selection of the view that you want to use within the Power BI report designer. Once you have the view within that report designer, the view, as you can see, becomes available on the right-hand side as data sets. And certainly you can import more than one view. And you can then use those data sets and the fields within those views, which are basically measures and different levels that you have within Stratum. You can then, then become available for your graphing capabilities. So without further ado, let's get into a demo. I've got a lot to show you. And if you have any questions, furthermore, there's my email and my phone number. Feel free to contact me for anything regarding Stratum. And as you can see, we've got other URLs down there as well that provide additional information about Stratum. And feel free to check those out to get more information about Stratum. Okay, with that being said, let's take a look at how do we use Stratum to build Power BI reports. So basically, I built this this week. It took me, not long at all, in all honesty, maybe 15, 20 minutes. And I had most of this built out. And I know it's not incredible, but certainly is something that, heck, I mean, for that amount of time, I think it looks pretty good. It's more of a sales, dashboard type of a scenario where, users can come in and see how the product families are performing, which ones are bringing in the bigger pieces of the pie. Obviously, Power BI does its thing, right? You click in on it, it shows you where down here, what category it belongs to and what the amounts are for that particular family. Up here, it's the family that's being graphed. Over here, the card or the gauge and the card get adjusted based on my selection. As I click back in on it, we're back to global enterprise. The line graph over here shows me all the brands in a stacked fashion where I can see some of the top brands up here and highlight, the areas where I can see some of the bigger numbers there. Right now, that graphic is not connected, so I'll show you how to address that. Certainly, we can make a connection from that graphic to the other one. So if I click in on that, we can have that graphic adjust as well. So I'll show you how to do some of that today in the designer. So let's get started. So first of all, you need to kind of plan on, a couple best practices, of course, right? You want to, think about what kind of dashboard or report that you're going to create. It must have a business theme or a purpose. Hopefully provides the data necessary so that users can at least glean some important information from it. So, something to think about. Secondly, what views are you going to use to get the data into the Power BI desktop so that you can get the data that you need necessary. There's a fine balance here, right? You don't want to bring in everything. Bringing in invoice level details probably not a good idea. To build graphics and dashboards off of that type of detailed data is not advisable. So some things to think about, right? For me, I've already got some of those views built. So, those things I've already done. And so my views, if I come up here and search for them, I use the PBI keyword preface to kind of segment my views out that I use for Power BI. And if I were to take a look at one of these views that I use within the designer, if I run that view in place here, it shows me that, I've got division, region, salesperson, product brand, product, sold to, product family. Those are all the different levels that I have within this particular view, down to the sold to, product family, product line level. Quite a bit of detail, not everything. Product is there as well, but certainly no invoice level detail. Ship to is obviously not in here, and that keeps the view fairly reasonable in terms of size. Here also, we can see we've got different sections, different views or measures, I should say, that provide the data in different versions of time. So we can do comparisons, year-to-date comparisons, rolling 3-month comparisons, those types of things. And it's basically sales-oriented and gross margin-oriented data. So we're going to use this view along with another view that also has the time elements in it so we can build that periodic graphic as well, right? So those are the views I'm going to use. So let's dive into our Power BI tool. And here's the graphic that I built. Now, here's the report that I built for my homepage that I just showed you within Stratum. And like I said, I built this this week, brand new. So we're going to take a shot at this. I'm going to start a new one. And I'm going to show you all the steps necessary to build something like this. So just starting from scratch, having to connect to something to build my new report, right? So right away, it's going to ask me to do something, whether I want to open something now or get data for a new report. I'm going to go ahead and click on Get Data. And right away, the Get Data menu appears. And if you've installed the Power BI connector, it will show up under the other folder down here on the bottom. And then obviously, it's called Sylvan Stratum Views. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to that. Next step is going to ask me for the URL to Stratum. I'm going to go out and get that URL. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to paste that back into the designer. All right. And I'm going to make that connection to the Stratum interface. So now it's connecting. And now it's providing me the list of all the views that I have available within Stratum. If I use that same search feature, I can then bring in the views that I need to build these reports. So here's that one view we looked at. It provides the necessary preview. We already know what's in it, so let's go ahead and load that in. All right, so it's actually bringing the data in and providing that data to the Power BI connector. Okay, the view becomes available. Here on the right-hand side, we can see that our data is available. The view has been imported and connected, and now we can go ahead and expand it. And we can see that, all the fields that are available, those measures, we can see the sum sigma sign there, right? It's showing me all the different data measures that are some that are summarized. Probably is why this little sum sigma sign is there. We also see the levels that don't have that sigma sign. Those are all the aggregated levels that we can choose to aggregate and build our reports on. Those are all the levels that we have within that particular view. Pretty simple. So how do we get started? Well, with Power BI, we can see that the visualizations are present here within the visualizations area. And if we were to select maybe a clustered column chart, we can then just make that, just select that or click on it. And then that becomes available over here on the left-hand side within the designer. And then at that point, it's just a matter of me selecting what levels do I want to make available for this particular graphic. Okay. So this was, I believe, something we were building before. Looks like product category. That's the product category long description is what we used for that. So we can go ahead and turn that on. And that could be on our x-axis. And then we want to maybe compare this year and last year's sales. And we can go ahead and make those selections here. So there we have that particular graphic. And just by making the selections here, we can see that, they automatically populate within the graphic. I can then move that around, maybe, bring it out a little bit more, resize it as needed. And, that would be that portion of that particular report. Pretty simple, very simple. So I was able to just build that report off of this particular view. Next thing I might want to attack is that pie chart up here for product family. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and click on the pie chart option there. And like the bar chart did, it populates there. And so this was for product family, long description. We'll highlight that. And then I believe this was for the sales units year to date. So this is going to show actually something different. Our sales units year to date. And we can see that when you resize things in Power BI, it gives you a nice little red line showing you alignment. And we seem to be aligned there. So I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop that there. Okay, so we're able to knock out 2 graphics there within one view. All right, let's get to work on some of this card over here and this gauge. You can see that the gauge is based on gross margin dollars year to date, and the card is sales year to date this year. Let's go ahead and do that. All right, how do we do the card? We come down here, we can see that the card is right here. If you just hover over these guys, the gauge and the card are right next to each other. So it's pretty simple to find. We'll go ahead and do the card first. We're going to minimize that card. It's not going to be huge, right? So we're going to minimize that, pull it down here. And while that's highlighted, I believe we just did global sales year to date, sales amount year to date. And boom, and it just highlights the amount. And that's at a global level. If I were to highlight, now I can actually play some games with highlighting some things. And given the fact that these 3 graphics are related because essentially they're coming from the same view, I don't have to make any relationships at this point. So pretty simple. And that's, if you can get Certainly. I mean, again, you don't want to build everything into the view, so you can have another view out there. As a matter of fact, you might want to parse some of the data out if you plan on bringing a lot of it in. And you can use multiple views and you can relate them based on common levels. Okay. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get that gauge in there. We'll go ahead and press on the gauge button. We're also going to kind of shrink that down a little bit, bring it down here, line it up. And the gauge was the gross margin year to date, I believe. So we're just going to go ahead and highlight that. Looks like the gross margin dollar amount, 225 versus the net sales or gross sales, 237. And we're matching up nicely. So the only thing we have left to do is this line chart, right? And this is going to show us this year's sales data up to period 9, because that's the current month. And this is by, as you can see, product brand. But we don't have this data in that view. Uh-oh, now what do we need to do? Well, we got to bring another view in. So how do we do that? Well, no big deal. We go out and we select go get data. We go back to the more area. We select other. We go out and grab the connector for Stratum. Again, we're making that connection there. And we're going to go ahead and search for those Power BI views again. And for this one, we're going to bring in the sales analysis report. And this will allow us to bring in the levels for time, which will allow us, as you can see, we've got periodic levels in here for time. And I believe we've got well, there's some days there. There's based year. We're going to be using these periods to do our necessary trending. All right, so that's it. We're going to go ahead and load that in. Now it's loading in two views. It's reloading back in Power BI comparative sales, and also now loading in my sales analysis report view, which will then allow me to build that trend style report, that line graph that we saw. So that one provides a little bit more data. So it's taking a little bit more time to get the data from those views. Looks like comparative sales is done and sales analysis is now complete. So good deal. We can now go ahead and select our line chart. I believe this one is I believe it's stacked. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and do that. There's the stack line chart. We're going to go ahead and stretch that out a little bit more. Okay, now on this one, we want to actually drag and drop some things down into the area here for our X, Y, and I'll show you how we were going to build this one. So we're going to open up that new sales analysis report, and we're going to check to see that looks like we've got base year and fiscal period there on our X axes. So we're going to do the same thing where we're going to select base year and drag and drop that down and our fiscal period there. So that piece is done, and we're putting that on the X axis. That looks good. And then on the Y axis, we're putting in the sales amount. Pretty simple. So we're going to drag and drop the sales amount from that view and drop it into the Y axis. We can already see that we've got some data populating there. Now all we need to do is give it the long description for product brand. So that's what we'll base that graph on, because that's what it's done here. And again, you don't have to use product brand, but something that you can use anyway. You can use any one, but just think about how much detail, right? So you don't want too much going on, right? Product brand seems to be a nice break here. So that looks pretty good. Now I just need to do some filtering maybe so that we're just doing 1 year and so on and so forth. And it looks like the filter is done here where we can see that current year is selected for base year. So we can do the same thing here. And we want to make sure that we select current year there. And voila, now we've got, and I can collapse the filters back down. And it looks like basically we've got pretty much the same thing that we've just built out here. And there you have it. So pretty simple, right? Now, as I make my selection, we can see that certainly these other areas are adjusting based on my selection. But why isn't my line graph being, that should be changing as well? Why isn't that happening? Well, with Power BI, if you're actually bringing in different data sets, you can have it detect, or you can make relationships on your own between these two data sets, these two views. And I know I've got different levels that I can relate there. Probably would make sense to use product. So for that, I'm going to do some data modeling. I'm going to manage relationships. I'm going to go into modeling, manage relationships, and I'm going to select a new relationship between those two reports, those two views that I'm bringing in for Stratum. And I'm going to base it on product. And because I know I've got product in this view, and I know I've got product somewhere in this view as well. Let's find it. There it is. And there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and make that relationship, close that out. And now if I make my selections, look at that. I'm able to actually see that line graph adjust and only show me the brands for that particular product family selection. Right? It's adjusting based on the different selections that I make. How cool is that? So Power BI comes to the rescue, gives us the necessary relationship there so that we can bring these two views together. All right, not bad. And as I drag and drop this over and make room for just one more thing, and that would be the drill through option that we provide from Sylvan. So if I were to go in and select our visual, which I don't see here, which is okay, we'll go out and load it. And we provide a visual for the drill through. So obviously we only have so much room for detail here, right? Until if we provide product level detail or God forbid, invoice level detail, it's just going to get real busy real fast. And it's not going to be appealing. So Sylvan has provided a drill through button that allows you to drill through I actually have it loaded here. And you can see it here. So we can see that the visual we have for Sylvan is loaded, and you can get that from the store, the Microsoft Store, directly from here. If you don't see the visual for Stratum here, you can always import it, get more visuals, and it'll automatically open up the store for you. If I search for Sylvan here, the visual will show up, and then you can load it from here. And this is for that drill through capability, right? So I've got that. I drag and drop that over here, and then you'll need to provide, as you can see, it wants to drill me to that view. Over here, I would need to provide some additional information for that visual. So if I go into properties for that visual, I can see that, it needs the URL and it needs the view ID of the view that you want to drill to provide that detail. Okay. There are other options here that you can turn on and off, whether you want to, hide the view name, the view filter, etc. When when the user clicks to that and into that view from the drill to button. It's pretty simple to set up. And if you don't know how to get the view ID, I'll show you how to do that real quick so let's follow that. So, now that we have the drill through button in there, I'm going to kind of close some of this down. And what that does for me is it allows me to make a selection here for a particular product brand. And as you can see, I select canned fruit. And it shows me, obviously, the different areas of information here. And so now I can click on that drill through button, and it will take me from that dashboard into my view, and it will then allow me to get more data for that particular visual. And this will allow me to bring in invoice level detail. So now I'm in Stratum, right? And I can then get additional levels of detail as I see fit. And whether it's invoice level or ship to, all that would be available. Then I can bring that in and have that available. I can then drill to ship to, something that I wouldn't have, obviously within the Power BI visual. and then I can just do the rest. I can get more detail while I'm in Stratum. So that drill through button, allows you to make a selection. Here we selected canned fruit. If we wanted to make a different selection, maybe for fresh vegetables, do another drill through for that. It then provides the brand for that particular filter, and then allows me to go in and do the necessary drill downs for that as well. So again, I can come up here and make the selection as well. These are based on product family, if you notice, and this is based on product category. So Stratum already knows that if I select, for instance, peaches here, and I make that selection for peaches and I drew that drill through, I should see peaches brand here arise. Farm fresh. If I add in product family, which is what I actually clicked on, then I should see peaches. And there's peaches right there. So it made the necessary filter initially for the product brand that peaches belongs to. And then I can go ahead and drill in on peaches as well. You could make it for product family. Certainly product family might be the first level. If you make product family your first level, it'll actually make the filter on peaches at that point. So, it all depends on how you finagle the view. Pretty simple to set up though, in terms of the drill down or drill through, I should say. This is drilling, what we consider drilling to the view behind the graphic, essentially. Okay, and then finally, once you create your report and you're ready to upload it, because right now you're in the desktop, Power BI desktop, and obviously, it's just a file residing locally on your machine. So in order to actually make this available for everyone and to collaborate on it, then certainly you're going to want to do a publish, what we call a publish. That actually gets published up to your Power BI cloud, which you can access via your browser. I'm in my workspace right now, and here's that report, so I can actually play with it online, and do necessary selections here, online on the cloud. Another cool thing is that you can embed this report. If I do a file embed report on it, and I do like an embedding for a website or portal, I can copy the link it gives me for the embedment, and then I can embed that report into a dashboard for Stratum and make that available via a Power BI dashboard here. We can see that now the dashboard's embedded within my Stratum dashboard. And if I put that dashboard in my home page of Stratum by going to the application menu and putting that URL for that dashboard there as my global home page, well, guess what? That dashboard now becomes my home page for Stratum, where users can then come in right away and enjoy the benefits of the dashboard that you just built for them, and then do the necessary drill downs from there. So now it's actually confirming the navigation to that view behind the graphic. And there you have it. So now it's fully implemented. I've got something there for the users, and I've got a brand new dashboard that I built basically right in front of your eyes today, and published it up, put it into Stratum, and now I'm using it. So as you can see, it's not rocket science, and the ability to use our Power BI connector makes it easier, certainly, than going against our database tables, which would be way more complicated.